I think we're all going to have to make our peace with this. When the shots are falling, they're winning. When they're not, they're not. Let's talk it through on Mizzou Extra.
KOMU8's Mizzou Xtra starts now.
Another one for Dre. We break down how Mr. Buzzer Beater struck again. Plus, sparks fly for Mizzou softball in some early season wins. And a matchup of champions on the mat for Mizzou Wrestling Senior Night. Let's get it rolling on Mizzou Extra.
KOMU8's Mizzou Xtra is presented by Harper Evans, Wade, and Nettemeyer, and brought to you by these sponsors.
And welcome to another edition of your favorite show, Mizzou Extra. I'm KOMU8 Sports Director Ben Arnett. Boy, two very different games, two very different outcomes on Mizzou basketball's recent road trip. From Knoxville to Auburn, the Tigers looked like two completely different teams. At times, everything worked in Tennessee. Three-point shooting was on. And even though the Tigers let the Vols back into the game after they built a big lead, they found a way to pull it out, didn't they? Much more on that later in the show. But at Auburn, nothing seemed to click. Shooting was off. Rebounding was a big-time struggle, and they turned the ball over way too many times. All a harsh lesson for Mizzou to learn.
It says, when it comes down to our conference, how tough our conference is. Everything can come down to possessions. You can forecast a scouting report, but sometimes in game you have to make adjustments.
We got to have that mentality just with, this league, and we just got to learn from it.
Now, I mentioned turnovers. That was a key part of Auburn's 19-2 run to start the game and never really let Mizzou have a chance. Mizzou's 16 turnovers were the second most they've had in a game this season, second only to the 21 times they turned it over against Kansas. Turnovers will be a focus for this group moving forward.
Stop turning the ball over. We usually have less, sometimes less, or in the game with only 10 turnovers. And we were in the first half with 10 turnovers, and they were able to convert them. That doesn't give us an opportunity to even defend.
Like a lot of things with this team, turnovers have been up and down this year, spiking in Mizzou's losses. Most recently against Auburn and Mississippi State, the Tigers had 16 and 15 turnovers respectively. In their wins against Tennessee, South Carolina, and LSU, they have kept the turnover numbers 10 or less. But in losses, it jumps up to 13.5 turnovers per game on the average, and that has not been good. Well, Mizzou softball, a lot of good things going as they started this week with a new-look team. The Tigers are down in Florida playing a lot of games in a short period of time. They lost 6 of last year's starters and have had to move new faces in there. Those players notching more innings had made their presence felt early this year, accounting for about half of Missouri's offense so far. Meanwhile, pitching, that's the mainstays. Krings and Weber are back again, but they added Sierra Harrison. Now, Harrison already has 2 wins on the young season, and head coach Larissa Anderson is calling her the best freshman arm Mizzou has ever had.
The it factor is when the ball comes out of her hands, she already knows if she strikes out a kid and she starts walking off the field. Like, I can't touch that. And she hasn't shown that swagger yet because she's still fairly new, but to have that internal instinct that she knows that the pitch is going to be pretty nasty is pretty cool to watch.
They're having fun just getting started. Mizzou Wrestling now is headed to the Big 12 Championships, coming off a massive win over number 3 Iowa State on senior night. The difference in this duel, a pair of pinfall wins by Tolton alums Brock Mahler and Noah Certain. Meanwhile, top-ranked Keegan O'Toole at the 165-pound weight class lost his first career regular season match at Mizzou to number 2 ranked David Carr. But Brian Smith is already looking ahead to Big 12s, where Mizzou will try to win their 12th straight conference championship.
I got to hand it to Carr. He wrestled a great match, great game plan, and rode us tough, but we'll make adjustments and get ready for the Big 12s. We got 2.5 weeks to prepare for the Big 12s, and we know we can go in there, and we're ready to go in there and win it.
2.5 weeks for Brian Smith. Look out, Big 12. Coming up next, our Mizzou Extra basketball analyst Jarrett Sutton joins us to break down Dre Golston's latest buzzer beater. And later in the show, former Mizzou wide receiver Bud Sasser joins me to discuss the new Mizzou NIL collective and how Tiger fans can get involved. Welcome back to Mizzou Extra. Time to talk things over with our Mizzou Extra basketball analyst Jarrett Sutton. And Jarrett, we're going to talk about the latest big shot from Dre Golston in this segment. First of all, the importance of that shot. That's a top 10 road win for Mizzou. And as we flip the calendar to next month, that's exactly the kind of thing that can become a deciding factor for the selection committee when they're talking about in or out, seeding, how close or far away you have to go from home. That could end up being the biggest shot of the season for Mizzou, won't it?
No question. I think it's a road win, number one. Number two, it is against a top 10 team and a team that, is right up there. That's going to be a top 4 seed in some level of the bracket with Tennessee. And it's a tough place to play. Everybody knows that. Big shot. I have flashbacks to, my era with Zaire Taylor. There's certain guys that are just made to make tough shots in tough situations and tough moments, and they want the moment. That's the biggest thing. But in terms of this season, in terms of where they're looking at postseason, this team's had some quality wins. You look at Iowa State and Kentucky, and every time Illinois, you beat these teams, you want them to have success, so that helps your resume. But Tennessee's had a great year, and Mizzou got them at the right time. I think this is another win. You look at the Wichita State win, you look at the UCF win. I think if you combine those, it's very similar to Tennessee. They found a way to come back and win after giving up a lead, and then they hit a big shot, buzzer beater, to win the game, and it comes from the guy that they want shooting that ball in that situation if they're in that situation. Now, you never want to be in this situation, but Missouri finds a way. Dre hits a big shot, and he's kind of made for this moment. That's what he wants to do, is have the ball late, and you got to have a guy like that, and Missouri's able to find a way to get a massive, massive win. League win helps them, in terms of seeding, also helps them for the SEC tournament. I think that's another big thing going into March Madness when you talk about seeding.
All right, we're going to break down the shot. We're going to show this and watch it here in a moment. But setting this up, this looks like a lot of luck, but you played the game and break it down every single day. As you watch this play, how did Missouri get Golston a shot that had a chance?
Well, I think when you look at the shot, number one, it's drawing it up and working on those type of situations in practice. You'll have a lot of different plays and sets you can go to late in game, and hopefully you work on those a lot in terms of late game situations. Obviously, it's what the defense is giving you and what you can expect coming out of a huddle, or if there is a timeout, if there's not a timeout, all those situations get practiced and repped, as you would say, all the time in practice, or should be. And I know they're doing that. And then you have to, like I said, have the right guy with the ball at the right time and give them enough time to get their momentum into the shot so they can get their shot off and put them in a position to get a good look. That's all you're looking for. The shot goes in great, but you want to get the best look possible. I think it was a little bit different than what they did in the UCF game in terms of how they got Dre the ball. And I think a lot of the times too, and especially in the Tennessee game, it's the actions that can, I guess, lull the defense in, where they're looking to think, oh, this is where the ball's going to go. And you throw the ball somewhere else where there's more space to operate. So it's almost like a decoy in terms of setting up the play by false action. Sometimes that's the best way to run a play. And you want to have your player that's shooting the ball in some level of action where they're in one-on-one situations, when they're not seeing a double or a trap or more hands, where they can get their shot off, where they have space, but there's not multiple defenders in front of them. And I think Dennis Gates has done a really good job of just putting players in the right situations. And it's not just that shot either, Ben. There's multiple times in games where you see Dennis Gates call sets and plays for different players to put them in the best positions possible to be successful. And it's why Missouri has a top 5 offense in college basketball. I think that's a great sign, because you're getting the best out of your players, but coaches are putting players in the right positions. DeAndre Golston is a tough bucket getter. He's always been that. He's been that all year. He was that way before he got to Missouri. He makes tough shots, and he lives for those moments, and that was what that moment was for DeAndre to make a big shot.
You're right. It was a completely different look than the UCF one. The UCF one, Demoy Hodge loses control, and it was kind of a look what I found for Dre. But on this shot, as we watch it again, to me the biggest thing I noticed was Tennessee had guys near him but not on him. They created space for him to get the shot up.
No question. And, I think Tennessee's probably going to look at it, themselves, and you never want to foul in those situations. So there is sometimes the conversation of, are you giving too much cushion? But anymore, your coaches would say you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation for an official to use the whistle in that moment. So, defensively, there's another conversation to this of what Tennessee will probably look at, Coach Barnes. But the reality is Missouri got the ball in their best player's hand and gave him a little room and time. And I think, too, with DeAndre, similar to the UCF game, if you look at both of those shots, DeAndre's got to know what the time and score and situation is, but more importantly, he's got to know how many seconds are in his, and have that kind of that countdown in his mind, because you want to be able to have a dribble and have time to get the shot off before the red horn sounds and before the backboard lights up. You want to have the ball out of your hand, and you have to know that and know your own self. How do I get my shot off in the right amount of time? And both the UCF win and both the Tennessee win on those shots DeAndre hits, he gets the shot off right in the nick of time, and it's perfect. And the rotation on the ball, and the shot is a good shot and a good opportunity for the ball to go through the net, and it did both times. And Missouri's able to find ways to win both those wins at UCF and at Tennessee. Obviously, two different wins in terms of resume, but you could argue at the time in their schedule, both massive wins. They needed another road win against Tennessee. The UCF game, it was after Kansas. After they got knocked down and blown out, they needed to come back. They find a way to do that and come back and get a good win against UCF. Different situation with Tennessee, but both wins very similar in terms of how they're able to come away with a win.
Thrilling in the moment, huge impact in the big picture for the season. We'll see if Missouri needs another buzzer beater or if they take it easy on the fans this week against Texas A&M. And Jarrett, we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, Ben. Thanks for having me.
That's Jarrett Sutton, our Mizzou Xtra basketball analyst. And we're back talking name, image, and likeness next on Mizzou Xtra. Well, there are three letters that have dominated conversation in college sports really for the last year or two, and that's NIL, name, image, and likeness. College athletes being compensated for use of their name, image, and likeness. It is legal, it is allowed, but it is still kind of confusing for a lot of college sports fans. And Nick Garner and Bud Sasser, former Mizzou wide receiver, are here to tell us more about that, because you guys are involved in the new Mizzou-related NIL collective. And Nick, I'll start with you. What is the name of the organization? What does it do? And how do Mizzou fans get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think NIL, as you said, has been something that a lot of people are still feeling out right now, and it's really in its infancy. Our organization, Every True Tiger Foundation, is really one that we started as Advancing Missouri Athletes. We moved over to the nonprofit Every True Tiger Foundation recently to really create an opportunity for any Mizzou stakeholder, any business, any donor, any just general fan could be able to get involved, join our efforts to really create NIL opportunities for Mizzou student athletes.
Bud, you played at Mizzou. Everyone remembers some of the big catches you made and one really big throw back in 2013. From your end, working with athletes and seeing things from their perspective, how is this all working?
Man, it's a beautiful thing to see, and it would have been an amazing opportunity, of course, as back in the day, us being able to participate in this. But it's really the execution side of it all, and it is just making sure our athletes are where they're really supposed to be, helping them get deals done, helping them understand what an NIL deal looks like from our perspective and their perspective, and just trying to find ways to make it a smooth process, helping them understand, what resources are available to them to market themselves and make themselves more marketable.
Nick, this is interesting. You mentioned the transition to the 501c3, and I think when a lot of people think of NIL, they think of endorsements and some of the, we've seen some funny commercials and stuff like that from athletes across the country. But this is more service-based, it sounds like?
Yeah, it is that. And I think there's the bit of the Advancing Missouri Athletes. It still exists, the for-profit opportunity, but really ETTF is about creating opportunities for the student athlete to not only be compensated for their name, image, and likeness, but to really get involved in their communities. So this is a chance for them to have that impact in the community with whatever organization they choose that we partner them with. But it's also an opportunity for donors and Mizzou stakeholders alike to be able to say, hey, I have charitable contributions that I have to make every year, and I see what Mizzou student athletes are doing, and that I'd like to give to that.
And how much good can student athletes do in the nonprofit service space? Because it seems like there's a whole world here for Missouri Tigers to get involved in to help the community and kind of help themselves at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it best right there, is to not only help the community, but help themselves at the same time. But something that, I think that we pride ourselves on is really being available to the community. We know that we have such a huge impact as student athletes, and as a former athlete, that your presence in a room can really shift a kid's day, year, month, whatever it is, and just that organization that you're paired with or partnered with, you're bringing light and you're promoting that organization.
Nick, real quick before we get out of here, people want to get involved. How do they do that?
Yeah, they can get involved by visiting everytruetiger.org, and you can follow us also on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. So there's opportunities for people to get involved at any level. So this doesn't have to be, this could be $5 a month, being involved, and up from there. It doesn't really matter. But everytruetiger.org is where you can go, and you can find out more about us. You can find out about our student athletes and the organizations we're working with.
Well, NIL. If you got questions, they got answers. Nick Garner, Bud Sasser, thanks for swinging by and dropping a little knowledge on us.
Thanks, Ben.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Back with more Mizzou Extra in just a moment.
KOMU8's Mizzou Extra is presented by Harper Evans Wade and Nettemeyer and brought to you by these sponsors.
Welcome back. One Tiger team is already headed to the postseason in March. Mizzou Club Hockey won the MACHA Silver Tournament in St. Louis recently. It was Henry Caston who scored the overtime winner to pick up the victory, assisted by tournament MVP Nick Spolik. With their win, the Tigers received an automatic bid to the American Collegiate Hockey Association National Tournament in Boston. Tigers have won 12 in a row. They haven't lost since November 12th.
It was pure elation. I just remember, I don't even actually remember anything besides just dogpiling everybody, just hugging, and everyone was just so happy. And it was those kind of moments that definitely bring us closer, but also just, moments that you never forget about for sure. And that's what I'm so glad that this program has brought to myself, but to the other 30 guys involved.
Hockey, a lot else going on. It's another crossover season with plenty of spring and winter sports overlapping, which means plenty of fantastic plays to showcase in the latest Tiger Top 5. Here's KOMU8's Kyle Helms.
We're going all around Mizzou athletics this week, including a former Tiger on the national stage in the latest edition of the Tiger Top 5. At number 5, softball season is here, and Larissa Anderson's squad is already taking opposing pitchers deep. Alex Honnold belts a 3-run shot way out of UCF softball complex.
See ya!
That blew the game wide open and helped the Tigers earn another top 25 win. At number 4, why is Mizzou Wrestling's Noah Certain so fired up? Well, not only did he take care of business, bulldozing his way to a pin, Tiger style, also upset third-ranked Iowa State ahead of the Big 12 championships. At number 3, Mizzou Club Hockey sealed a trip to nationals in epic fashion. Henry Caston drilled a game-winning goal in overtime, giving the Tigers their 12th straight win. At number 2, what's former Mizzou linebacker Nick Bolton been up to? Only making game-changing plays in the Super Bowl.
It's picked up by Bolton. No one in front of him is going to score.
The Super Bowl captain now has a Super Bowl ring and was the first Tiger to ever score a touchdown in the big game. So if that was number 2, what's number 1? DeAndre Golston strikes again.
Let's it go for the win.
Look familiar? Golston's second game-winning buzzer beater of the season gave Mizzou a top 10 road win. The harder the shot, the more dangerous Golston becomes.
Fun time of year. Conference tournaments fast approaching while winter sports teams are making their final push in the regular season as well. Gymnastics hosts SUNY Lee in Auburn at the Hearn Center on Sunday. You won't want to miss that. Women's basketball is on the road in College Station next week. Men's hoops hosting Mississippi State next week before heading to Athens to take on Georgia. And of course, we mentioned next month, Mizzou Club Hockey heading to nationals. And while we've got a little time at the end of the show, let me stump for those guys again. Mizzou Club Hockey has produced one of the best college hockey programs in America. They're not Division I, but they're headed to nationals, and they need your help. Mizzou Club Hockey has set up a GoFundMe to help pay for their expenses to go represent the University of Missouri on the national stage at that Club Hockey National Tournament in Boston. If you can contribute, please do so. And once again, can we come together and give that team and our city of Columbia a home on the ice? There continues to be no ice complex in this city of Columbia, which remains absolutely insane to me, not only as a sports fan, but also as a parent who's looking for stuff for their kid to do. Business community of Columbia, Mizzou community of Columbia, Mid-Missouri, and the Show Me State, Let's come together and make that happen for our community. And I'll see you again next week on Mizzou Extra.